like, even though we had a bit at the beginning trying to define what an LRT is and covering a bunch of the different transit types, we're still going, what the heck is this project? And that's, I think, a theme.
Does anyone in the world know?
Yeah.
The old texts speak of what is an LRT. Healthy, nice. Oh,
What?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Welcome back to the Standard Humans podcast with me, Aiden.
And Evan, and then historic moment, first time having a third person, right?
Yeah, in the 3 years or so we've been doing this, we have never had a guest before. Now we have invited the Honorable, the transit expert, Declan himself, to join the podcast.
Hello, I'm Declan.
Nice
Declan,
to meet you.
why are you here other than nepotism?
Yeah.
Other than nepotism,
Yeah.
I've been looking into the O-Train a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Well, a little bit. He's downplaying it. This is one of the few people on Earth to actually read the full report about the O-Train released by the municipal government, right? Municipal government?
There's a whole section of the report on who released it,
Oh.
on how it was set up and stuff.
Amazing. Okay. But we can potentially touch on that. But I guess to backtrack a bit, listeners, longtime listeners might have noticed this is a slightly Ottawa and Toronto-centric podcast. We are always up on the goings-on in these two cities specifically.
Yeah, for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, we have no connection to these cities at all.
Yeah.
But we're just there. It's just interesting. They're just pretty based. I don't know.
Yeah, probably the best cities in the world, I'd say. Besides, if you throw Kitchener-Waterloo in there too, then those are probably the best three cities in the world.
It's a pretty decent mix. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
No, but we are quite fond of these cities. You could say we're up on what's going on. I get filled in on the latest disasters of the O-Train every time I visit the city.
And probably
all
general.
everybody wants to talk about.
Well, general. Oh yeah, everybody's only talking about the O-Train, but also just general OC Transpo disasters are pretty good too. Not actual disasters, just the general day-to-day functioning of.
Occasionally disasters.
Occasionally disasters. Those are less fun.
Yeah, I feel like every time you visit here, Aiden, like the O-Train is shut down for some reason.
It really is, yeah. It's just one issue at another. There's always something.
For some reason, they always coincide.
Let's check
It's
out.
not a coincidence.
Let's check out one of my favorite websites, Occasional Transport. See what the LRT is doing right now. The LRT is running. Hey,
Let's go.
Love to hear it.
when was the last? Okay, the last incident was 65 hours ago. Stopped train, but I think they just got it running again. That's no big deal.
I think I heard
Very
about
good.
that. Yeah.
But yeah,
Very good.
anyways, we follow this a lot, and I think the O-Train is really interesting, partly because it's entertaining, and oh boy, has Declan got some fun details and stories lined up for us that'll be, again, very entertaining. But also, I think there's a lot of lessons and ideas to be learned from this that very much apply to other transit projects in other cities as well.
Anywhere you have in mind.
Honestly, a lot of the world at this point.
Yeah.
There
Canadian.
are a lot of lessons about, I don't know, we'll get into it, but
Yeah.
privatization and whatnot, that the general cost issues and just things that go wrong in transit that, have happened very much, or to a large extent in Ottawa, or to a more dramatic extent. I feel like they fumbled the bag more so than others might
Yeah.
have, but
It's
it's
just-
issues that a lot of cities are facing.
Collecting every error that has been made in Canadian light rail transit for the past
Basically,
little
yeah.
while and putting it
They're
all
speed
together.
running the whole
Yeah.
mess ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I feel like there's a lot of honest mistakes that happened in Ottawa, and then there's like the corruption. And that
Well, what about silly mistakes? How many silly mistakes have you made too?
there was a lot of
Hopefully
silly
many. Yeah,
mistakes.
those are the best. Those are the best
Like-
kind.
Eventually we'll get to it, but like the transit report that I talked about or that's been discussed, like has like 100 recommendations that it gave to the city
Jeez.
things to do better.
Wait, Aiden, what you got there?
Oh, thank you for clocking that. In honor of the Ottawa O-Train, I've got some Ottawa-based whiskey going here
Oh, which one?
from the North of Seven distillery
Oh,
that I picked up when I was out with Declan and my mom when I was in town last time on the most us trip, or the most us day trip I've seen. We went to a bicycle themed brewery, a distillery, and then we just visited the Ottawa train station
wait,
because we hadn't been.
there's all. Oh, you mean Tremblay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's pretty nice. I like Tremblay.
I was a tad disappointed. I don't know. I was probably expecting more coming off of
It's
like
very
Union
small.
Station.
Yeah, it's
but-
super small, but it's cool looking, I guess. And it doesn't have the you have to go to like an underground chamber and then go back above ground to get on your via rail. You just kind of walk out there, which is nice.
That is nice. Yeah, it's very simple. It's a very. I mean, it could have been a lot worse with a like. They built it in like the '60s, I think.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
For what it is, it's all right. But
Yeah. But where's this? Wait, where's this? Where's this distillery?
right by it, actually, within like 10, 15
really?
minute drive.
Huh.
Yeah, out towards the east end a little more.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
it is decent. Very like small kind of craft distillery place.
Yeah.
It's like you show up and you see what they got kind of situation, but kind of neat.
I'll have to check that out when I'm back.
Definitely. But anyways,
Yeah.
all that being said, should we get into this O-Train discussion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think so. When talking about the O-Train, we were trying to decide a bit beforehand. The project we're going to talk about mostly is the Confederation Line, which is kind of like the east-west line. It's like 12.5 kilometers. It has a tunnel underneath downtown. And
Currently, so it's Herdman to Blair right now, right?
it's Blair to Tunney's pasture. Oh wait,
Or sorry, not Herdman. Sorry, yeah, Tunney's to Blair, right?
yeah.
Herdman to Blair. It's like we stopped. No, yeah. Why do I keep saying Herdman? Tunney's to Blair. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when talking about the context behind it, we're going to talk about the other line, which is called the Trillium Line now, I think. It's the north-south line. Yeah.
So that one's so east-west is line 1 and north-south is line 2, even though the Trillium Line, the north-south one, was built first, and the other one, the east-west one, was built second. That's line 1, which I think makes sense, especially for people like starting to use it more so, because that's very much the main line for that to be line 1. But was tripping me up a little bit before the podcast started.
So,
but
I guess like the combination east-west, Confederation, line 1, and then north-south, Trillium, line 2. But the numbers are not chronological.
No, yeah.
So
I think
that trips everyone up, I feel like.
Yeah. But they're both a lot of the time called LRT. And so I wanted to talk about like what is an LRT just like right away.
Yes,
first,
please.
we have to start out with their Socratic dialogue and ask, what is an LRT?
And how do you know? Yeah.
And are your children doing it?
Yeah.
It's a very vague term, honestly, but in general, just to go over like different transit types, usually transit types are like based off of like the style of service that they give, maybe the vehicle type. Is the system grade separated? Like what types of communities are being connected or how far away those communities are? Like the frequency of the service, the speed of the vehicles. All this kind of determines what type of transit it is.
Mm-hmm.
So like an intercity train obviously is like it goes fast between like the farthest away mode you have kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like regional trains maybe go a little bit slower but stop a bit more often, kind of do the metropolitan area, the regional area.
An intercity would be like Via, right? Versus regionals like Go Transit.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Via Rail, Amtrak, and then regionals Go Train, Exo Rail or whatever.
in Montreal. Yeah,
I think that's how you say it.
yeah, the EXO.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of the EXO.
Oh yeah, that's Montreal's equivalent to Go Transit. It's
Huh.
not as good, but it's there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very much commuter service, so just like in a little aside, it's very annoying to try and use it to get to the train museum in Montreal.
Ironic.
It's like it's like such a good route to get there, but since it's only commuter trains, it's like you have to like go out in the afternoon and then you're stuck there. There's no trains going back.
Okay, well, I mean, you're telling me, dude, because every time I try to visit my friends in Kitchener, I leave on the Friday, usually sleep on somebody's couch, and come back on the Saturday. And during the week, the Kitchener to Union line is running every hour until like 8 p.m. or something. It's amazing. Could be later, but like every single hour, so I can just kind of head down whenever I'm done work, take it up. But then Saturdays, Sundays, literally not a single time.
No trains at all.
No trains from Kitchener on the Go line Saturday, Sunday. So I have to take like a bus to like Brampton and then take the train into Union then. So
That's unfortunate, but sounds about right. Yeah. They're making it a lot better. I think their plan is to make all the main Go lines go every like 15 minutes during like main service in the next like decade. So it's going to be a while, but they'll get there.
But yeah, because I'm just run one morning, one afternoon, one evening on the weekends. Just 3 trains, please. Yeah.
But anyways, back to transit types.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's then like metro style transit services, which usually have high frequencies, lots of stations. I think in like Toronto and Montreal, it's usually like a kilometer between each station or something like that.
Yeah, it depends on which ones you're talking about. I think the newer ones are more like that, but the downtown, the older ones are much closer together, which reflects like different generations of like transit design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, more or less. I think that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. I know between Eglinton to the south ones, it's between 10 to 20 minutes walk between each of the stations, I'd say. Maybe a little over 20 no, it's about 20 Eglinton to Davisville, if not a little less. So,
yeah. More or less.
And then since the stops are so close together, they've got to speed up and slow down pretty fast. And also metro systems are usually completely grade separated from roads and other transit, and it basically so that they only stop at stations and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. I guess we should also just define terms of it, because we've said grade separation a couple times. What does that mean?
That means just like not interacting with walking, cycling, cars, anything else kind of. It's usually you got your own right of way completely. Like either it's your own road or your own train tracks, and they don't, again, you never have to stop for anything except for the stations themselves kind of thing, is grade separation. So it kind of allows a transit service to run faster and more frequently and more reliably. But usually, it costs more money to build a grade separated service.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
And then a variant of metro that I want to talk about is light metro. Is very relevant to this story because...
Or you could call it Metro Light.
Oh.
Because it's just slightly worse.
Not necessarily.
That's fair.
It's worse.
I guess it doesn't have to be.
It does not have to be. Like Vancouver Transit's pretty based.
Ooh,
I agree. Sky Train. That's a lot.
I really like the Sky Train.
Yeah.
Very nice to take.
The Sky Train
the airport too.
Is a fantastic example of light metro. And I think I would also argue that the Confederation Line is an example of light metro as well. Lower capacity trains than like a normal subway, but still having the grade separated, high frequency, slow down and start up pretty fast kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So sorry, is that what it is? Like light metro is just essentially smaller a little bit? Yeah.
It's just like trains that usually hold maybe like 500 people or something rather than the 1,000, 1,500 that like a subway train might hold. Um,
Yeah, and that could be
Yeah.
happen a few ways too. Because if you think of like Toronto, their like crush load for like the Toronto Rocket, the like Line One subway is like 1,500 people, and it's very long and it's very wide. I mean, there are like bigger subways out there, but it's pretty much like that.
Mhm.
But then if you think of like Vancouver SkyTrain, that's like still pretty wide, but it's a lot more narrow. And then like Ottawa O-Train is kind of like it's pretty long, but much narrower, and it's also low floor, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have so you can't get as many people in there.
The actual train itself, like the SkyTrain, does like being inside it. I remember it reminded me a lot of the O train, like riding it, like the actual train chassis or whatever itself. The vibes were familiar, but
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. I really want to ride the SkyTrain one day.
it's nice. And it comes straight from the airport, so you just get off your plane, hop on, and it also side note, I was very impressed with Vancouver when I went there, but for
That's
like
fair.
multiple
It's
reasons.
a based city.
It's a lovely city. They have all the bikes that I could go around, and it was February, but it's only a little bit rainy, not snowy, so I could bike around all I wanted. It was great. But they have that thing that I first observed in London, and it blew my mind, is like the different lines have different express v non-express like trains. So you actually so I was going pretty far, so I had one that like basically skipped like the next like 8 stops and then just started there versus like just the regular hitting all of them, and it like had a fork at the end, so you have to make sure it is the right destination and stuff. So I always like when that happens, because then you can kind of get where you're going a little quicker.
Definitely. Yeah, that is nice. Harder to do, but very nice and worth figuring out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we've got some other train things here. Got like tramways, which I can't really. Well, I think a good example would probably be maybe the St. Clair streetcar in Toronto.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
True.
It'll be back.
Yeah.
One
Just
day.
another year.
Yeah.
Where you got a tramway operating in like the median of the streets and some elevated bits and stuff, where it doesn't have its own right of way. It's not completely grade separated, but it is somewhat. It just has to interact with traffic lights and stuff. And that is compared also to streetcars, which I would kind of define as running mixed traffic with cars most of the time, or a lot of the time, and even slower than tramways and slower than metro.
They're basically cable buses, I guess. Like not a literal cable bus, because I just learned.
That's a trolley bus. Those are
based. And you just told me those exist like a little while ago, which I didn't know about. But I feel like they're a similar vibe to that, because they're just like they have their tracks they have to go on, but they like are in traffic essentially all the time, and like
kind of. It's like most of our streetcars downtown in Toronto.
That's what I mean.
Like yeah.
Where it's like they're subject to traffic and stuff, but they have like no engine and electric and stuff.
And I think I should say this now also, like these transit types aren't like exclusive. Like a transit system can do multiple of these things at different parts of the system, kind of thing. Like the Eglinton Crosstown is kind of a great example, because it is like a subway, basically a light metro for part of it, and then it's going to go and use the median of a road, become like a tramway basically for the rest of it. I don't know if I'm sure there's some parts of the Toronto streetcar network that have like their own lanes in some parts, maybe.
Yeah, there are, but
like fully grade separated bits of the streetcars.
Just like not mixed with traffic.
There are some
lanes.
Not much. Like what comes to mind mostly is the one tunnel downtown for like 2 stops on one of the streetcar lines.
Okay.
That goes into like the curved station at Union, which is
pretty neat. Yeah, that one. And it also there's that one. There's the King, I think King or Queen, maybe it's Queen station, where like one of those goes underground too, and then it's like grade separated for a little bit. Like it has like an elevated bit. So it's supposed to be fully grade separated, but I have seen cars drive out of the underground tunnel and just driving along there, like as in they drove in the underground tunnel, not knowing what was going on.
Oh, lucky. I want to see that so bad. I've heard that it happens often, especially like I've heard it a lot at like St. Clair West, I think.
Yeah.
They do that all the time, including apparently there's been a few instances of people like driving down into the streetcar tunnel, getting like very confused and panicking and just abandoning their car in the like streetcar and bus little roundabout and like bolting.
Oh, I know.
Just the funniest
Hilarious.
shit. I want to see that at some point, but I don't go there enough to encounter it.
Yeah. So it's sight.
Definitely.
So then there's not just trains in transit. There's also buses. And there's bus rapid transit, which usually has their own lanes. And
Good one of those up in Vaughan. Or I don't know if it's good, but a very distinct one of those up in Vaughan where it has its own lane and cool, like tubular looking, like road and
yeah, as well as Ottawa, prime example of bus rapid transit.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, true. Like by Herdman, actually, it goes to Herdman Station, and like the 88 for part of it goes along one of those.
Yeah. And also, what the Confederation Line has replaced for a bunch of it was like Transitway, which is kind of considered like a form of bus rapid transit, right? Like it has its own road basically, not just lanes on the road, but still bus rapid transit. Still can just lets them go faster and no contact with traffic kind of thing. Yeah. And then there's local buses. And there's some other types of transit, but not really relevant.
Well, the funniest one I've heard of is currently in one of my friends lives like around Welland. He lives in Fonthill, so that's like Niagara, St. Catharines, Welland type region. And currently, I don't know if you've heard of it, but last I spoke to him for the past couple of months, they had subsidized Ubers that you could. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So it was transit rate, so it was like $3 or whatever. But you could take an Uber from your house to a bus station because there were so few. Because there's like no bus connections literally in like that like area. So they were like they just had a system of subsidized Ubers. So yeah, I would just call, be like, hey, can you drive me to the bus station? $3 to drive you there.
There's a pilot project for that in Ottawa, except instead of Ubers, it's with actual like paratranspo buses that you just call, and then they'll come to your house, and then bring you to. Well, I think it's near Blair Station. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wait, what? Wait, it's always Blair Station?
Well, it's just the pilot project is in like Blackburn Hamlet.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Aiden, you were telling me about this.
Yeah.
So I think you technically can get around Blackburn Hamlet with it, but I don't see why you would. The only place you'd really need to go, or would be worth taking transit for, would be Blair Station. Yeah. At least based on like the boundaries of their pilot program.
Yeah. Because Blackburn Hamlet is not big.
No, not at all.
It's like 8,000 people, I think.
They need some bike infrastructure because that would be an easy like bike to get around that like tiny neighborhood, that enclave of the Greenbelt.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I think they've also done this pilot project before, like in the 70s or something. I don't actually know how that went. I mean, I guess it's only being tried again now, so I
probably not great.
I'm just looking here, like from the absolute farthest reach of one end of Blackburn Hamlet, like going the long way to the absolute farthest reach of the other end is under 3 kilometers.
It's a small area.
Yeah.
So, anyways, bringing us back.
Yeah.
So this is, you were saying, kind of a light metro. This the Ottawa O-Train project.
Yeah, I feel like you might notice that I didn't actually mention LRT when I mentioned all those types of transit.
Yeah, that was not one of the categories.
Because you can kind of use the word vaguely to refer to streetcars, tramways, or light metros. It's kind of more so based on the fact that it's a light rail vehicle, which is basically one that looks like a tram or streetcar. I'm not exactly sure on yeah.
It's what you're driving. It's not where you put it that makes it an LRT.
I think so. Yeah.
Honestly, from what I've understood, it's kind of a purposefully vague term at times. Politicians can just say, we have an LRT, and then that can, you fill in the blanks a little bit about what you think that'll mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
You don't
unfortunate.
actually know what you're getting when
Mhm.
someone says there's an LRT.
There
Except
are a lot of questions that need to be answered still.
like will it tear up car lanes? It's like Premier Matlow, please stop yelling at Mayor Ford. It won't tear up car lanes. That famous argument between Rob Ford and Matlow on like YouTube where Ford's like, it's gonna tear up car lanes, and Matlow's like, did you even read the report? It doesn't tear up a single car lane.
Yeah, that one's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know, I need to look that up at some point. You mentioned it the other day, and that's my counselor.
Yeah. You can see him
He's based.
losing his mind at Rob Ford.
Thank you, Matlow.
Like just full fury, which is fair.
Yeah, it's the correct response.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, you don't know what you're getting with an LRT. It's just some kind of a small-ish train thing, I guess.
Yeah. So what we know now is basically the Confederation Line is kind of a light metro system. It's called an LRT. That's kind of the variation, you could say, of LRT it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now we can kind of get into the history, I think, of transit in Ottawa before the Confederation Line.
Well, actually, one quick thing with light metros and like light rail transit. Why would people opt for a light metro instead of just a metro?
Sometimes it's cheaper to build and maybe fits the amount of passengers they want better. Like in Vancouver, it's like normal subway trains, right?
Yeah.
But there's just shorter of them, like less of them. So it's a shorter train. So the stations can be shorter. So you could the stations are like half the cost, and then you can build more, I guess, of that transit. And it can still provide a lot of capacity. And so it each of these transit types kind of depends on where you're building, and they all kind of serve different purposes, you know? So I think we'll talk about a little bit later why the light metro was chosen.
Yes,
kind of.
But yeah, if I could just...
But yeah.
I'd say like it is, again, like you were saying, like different tools for different situations to an extent. Like you wouldn't build a light metro in downtown Toronto because it would just be overwhelmed. Like it just doesn't have the capacity, right? Like we're filling up fully heavy metros at this point, but not every city or situation necessarily needs that. And generally speaking, it's better to like have like more frequency than like more capacity per train. See, that kind of throws people off a little bit at times. It's like, because they'll try and like reduce the amount of like drivers they need by just having like massive trains run every like 15 minutes. And it's like, no, that's not as good as like smaller trains coming like very frequently. And like, again, like the SkyTrain or something, like it seems to be much more like right sized to that situation. Like they don't need like heavy metro per se. Like a pretty frequent light metro does the job quite well. And like Declan was saying, can reduce costs if you can get like shorter stations and things like that, which especially if you're tunneling is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can increase capacity also with using new signaling systems, and Vancouver's train is fully automated, which helps a little bit. But yeah.
Fun fact about tunneling for subways. The tunneling machine, usually they dig the tunnels for the subway, and then they just fucking tunnel off to the side and leave it there
right?
forever.
Really?
Yeah.
They get reused.
Oh, that's crazy.
They get built down there too, right? They get assembled down there,
believe
and then
so,
they
'cause
tunnel
they're huge.
and they're left.
Because yeah, it's basically a drill the size of a subway tunnel, so it's gigantic.
And
so
the
it's
whole
like,
thing's like a kilometer long, right? The whole machine.
it's huge.
Usually.
It's like yeah, it's huge, but which makes it even more mind-boggling. It's single use.
That's true. I wonder how many of them there are under Toronto right now.
Yeah, some.
Quite a few just sitting there hanging out.
Yeah. I was told this by my uncle. And I was like, no fucking way. And I looked it up, and it's true.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did that to them.
Yeah.
They just leave it.
Like the first person to do that must have been like, okay, so how do we get it out now? It's like, well, let's
we can figure it out later. I don't know.
Let's figure it out later. Let's get the train running now. We'll figure out how to get that thing out later, and they just never did.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, I guess it's fine. Just leave it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess to put a cap on that question too, just to say like, there's nothing inherently wrong with like a light metro. It can definitely be like the right thing for the right job.
Yeah.
Like the best transit agencies, I feel like have a big mix of like the different types we talked about, and they use them in the appropriate situations. They don't just try and use LRTs for literally every project, like North American cities have tried to do for the last like couple decades.
Yeah, fair.
I think they've also tried to do that with BRTs as well.
Oh, they have, yeah.
Yeah.
That's another purposely vague term. But anyways, history of Ottawa Transit.
History of Ottawa Transit. Just to quickly mention, because it feels wrong not to mention, there was Indigenous people in Ottawa once. They got around walking, boats, sometimes sleds in the winter.
So that's the OGest of OG of Ottawa transport.
That's
walking sleds and
we do like
boats.
We are very much boosters of active transportation on this podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
So, based.
Got where they needed to go, I would imagine.
The modal share was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, between walking and boats, not so much, but.
Well, yeah. Boats gets
fair.
better, though. Maybe not for the Indigenous people.
No.
Not so much.
We can say Ottawa is also, built on the unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory or whatever, if you want,
Yeah.
Just
all
just
very
real
good
quick,
call outs.
Quick shout out.
The OG Ottawans.
And then after that, there was some people who were in logging industry, but really Ottawa started with the Rideau Canal in 1826. Great transit project here.
Actually, wow, that's weird. I never thought about that, but I guess that's what it was for goods mostly, I guess, but.
Yeah. Also, in case the United States attacked us, we wouldn't have to go near their border to bring goods via water.
On the river systems.
The OG freight rail.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah, I think Ottawa got some rail connections like a decade after that. Or maybe a few. Okay. Basically, the Rideau Canal, though, is actually the largest project that was undertaken in Ottawa until the Confederation Line project.
Really?
We're going to talk about.
Huh.
Yeah. That's just a fun fact, really.
Yeah.
That's interesting, but I guess it makes sense. The Rideau Canal's hella long, right? And that would have been a very like federal government project.
It's like 12 kilometers or something, or 10 kilometers. Or...
I think the federal government should continue to invest that much money in Ottawa.
I think we should make the canal extend to Canada. I think that's what we need.
That would be a great idea. Yeah.
We
run
need
a series
more
of
aquatic
boats.
transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually then that transit project was, of course, overtaken by Stage 2 of the Confederation Line in a few years. It didn't take 200 years this time to pass it. And then after that, a little bit later, late 1800s, we got streetcars. Those were very cool.
Do you know? Do you have where those were? Because I feel like nothing. Like in Toronto, like a lot of the tram tracks, even if the like streetcars don't go on it anymore, a lot of the tracks are still there, especially like downtown. But like
it was a lot more extensive than what currently tracks are on here. Like there were tram tracks within like 100 meters of where I'm sitting right now.
Are there not I mean, you're pretty close to St. Clair Station.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but I mean even closer.
Oh, okay.
I won't say the road on the podcast.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I want to get doxxed.
What's
we
your
can
address?
Talk about that later. But it was hella extensive. I think I showed you the map in the. Like,
it was very nice.
Cars. Yeah, it was big. But Ottawa as well was massive.
But yeah, I feel like nothing remains of like the Ottawa ones. I feel like if you're walking around downtown, you won't see a morsel of old tram tracks. You know, they're like gone.
There's like 2 spots I think I know. I think there might be some just random tracks left at Britannia Beach, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, well, there's the bridges. The like train bridge kind of thingies, I think. I mean, yeah, it could be tracks too, yeah.
And also, I know there's a tiny bit of track in Rockcliffe.
Huh.
Both of those places were where the Ottawa streetcar built out lines to try and get people to use the streetcar to go to parks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of the population of Rockcliffe Park using public transport now is like probably one of the funniest things I've heard today.
Yeah, that is not a transit area.
No.
Yeah.
It's actually hilarious that there was like a barn in Rockcliffe Park where they put a bunch of streetcars, and that's where like half of the Ottawa streetcars were destroyed.
Wow.
By just like the barn kept burning down.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Like, I think sometimes it was just like some teenagers they just blamed it on, and there was no like fire department nearby, I guess, because it was just in the middle of the park or something.
Jeez, that's too bad.
Oof.
Yeah.
What an old-timey problem. Just keeps burning down.
I know. I feel like at that point they would have just started their own fire department.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very like 1800s thing to do, is just to be like, well, my business needs this, so I'll start my own public service.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I guess they weren't making that much money.
This even goes back to like the horse-drawn streetcars in Ottawa as well.
Ooh.
Had barns there. That
Very
was like
cool.
the only extension they did, I think. But
bring those back.
yeah. I think the streetcar system in Ottawa was privatized up until 1948, when the city took over the system, when it was kind of not making much money anymore. It was having a lot of problems. And by 1959, the city had removed all of the streetcars.
Ooh.
And also a fun fact, because we talked about it earlier a bit, we did have one trolley bus line in Ottawa.
Very cool.
That went down Bronson, I think. At least part of it was on Bronson, yeah.
When did that get removed?
I think it was around the same time. The city really didn't want overhead wires for some reason. Well, not for some reason. They thought it was ugly. They also thought that the streetcar would be too vulnerable to enemy attack.
By who?
I am not entirely sure.
I assume the Americans, I guess, but this is the 1950s by this point. Probably not.
Was that a big concern at the time?
I mean, I guess it's like a decade after World War II ended.
So we're still very military focused.
But like,
I say that we're still very military focused, but
not that much at least.
Our public transport isn't as military focused.
No.
Yeah, much less.
We're not armored buses. When?
Yeah, that was actually World War II was a big boost in Ottawa's streetcar system.
It was a boost.
Yeah, because of all the new federal things happening in Ottawa during World War II.
Oh, that makes sense. And everybody has to get around, right?
Yeah.
All these newcomers to Ottawa.
So that's a very quick amount of time between 45 to 59 where it's like boost to absolute destruction, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I say a boost. It was a boost in ridership, but, due to all the rationing during the war, they weren't able to get much new. Like, they had to take the clocks out of the streetcars. The only new streetcars they got during the war were like 4 old streetcars that Toronto gave them. because Toronto was allowed to get some new streetcars,
Yeah.
but no one else.
That's funny.
Hooray for special treatment.
Yeah.
I guess it's, a big city, I guess,
Mhm.
But yeah, that's the streetcars were ended in 1959, and then after that, there was kind of just some buses running around the city of Ottawa, like the downtown core itself, for about a decade. And the rest of the Ottawa region, all the suburban areas, had no transit at all, maybe a few private bus companies.
Actually, wait. Backtrack for a second. I just got caught up on this. Sorry, I'm derailing my own podcast. Wait, was it only Toronto that was able to get new streetcars? Or would have Montreal have been as well? Because Montreal was bigger and was very much more the industrial center at that point, right?
Right, before everyone got scared of
I don't know.
the French.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
they might have. I think Montreal. Okay, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but Montreal might have also gotten streetcars from Toronto, old streetcars.
I would assume, because Toronto didn't really overtake the title of main Canadian city until the 1970s or so, I think.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure.
Honestly, that's fair. That's okay. We're talking about Ottawa today. Let's get back to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was basically not much transit service for like a decade, and then 1973, the greatest thing to happen to transit in at least Ottawa, the oil crisis happened.
Oh, yeah?
Fantastic. So suddenly there was a big shift, and people, or the government at least, wanted public transit as an option. Oil was, maybe not seen as the greatest, as the most sustainable thing. Like, we don't want to be beholden to these foreign powers kind of thing.
Which is, sorry, that's always so funny to me that in the 70s, the amount of measures people took to move away from oil and gas, when just because it was having to be imported and very expensive, versus the measures people take now. Well, as we know, it's destroying our natural world. Seems disproportionate.
Yeah.
I mean, that checks out, because it wasn't just expensive. That feels like a very our responses to extremely large but slightly longer term problems versus our responses to more acute problems. That was very much OPEC is holding the oil back. There's probably a little bit of this. There may be a little bit of racism in there or something like that. A little bit of xenophobia.
Maybe.
in that there's a clear enemy messing with our oil supply. Versus now it's is that even real? Come on. We spend money.
No, we're the oil men.
We are, yeah. We're a net exporter of it at this point, right? But I guess at that point we wouldn't have been.
So, I get ads on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
The government of Alberta.
Yeah. I've gotten those too. It's saying do you? Oh yeah, so you want your heating to be shit and expensive, and you want your electricity to be bad, huh? Well then, you don't. Okay, then write the federal government. This message from the government of Alberta.
Fucking government of Alberta, man. They've just declared war on the feds, which I mean they do on a regular basis, but just stop, please.
They're also trying to opt out of the Canadian pension plan, which is the most bizarre thing I've heard in a while.
They can fuck off with that bullshit. That is not. I hope that's only rhetorical. I don't think that's going to get through any courts, but we'll see. Well, them pulling out might, but them trying to take 60% of the assets, I don't think will.
I should hope not.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyways.
Now that we've lost the Albertan listeners.
Yeah. We've lost the Albertan listeners, except for that one bicycle YouTube channel in Calgary.
Oh, true. If Shifter's listening, you're
Shifter's
based.
listening, he's on board.
Yeah. I swear, we just are talking bad about the Albertan government.
Yeah. People are fine.
Yeah.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah, okay, 1973.
Most Ontario band discussion.
Yeah.
Have you heard of these Westerners?
Yeah. Ugh.
Okay.
But yeah, so 73.
1973.
Oil crisis.
OC Transfo is created. Okay.
Hey.
And they took over regional transport for not just the city of Ottawa, but like all the municipalities around it. This is like pre-amalgamation. So
That would have included Canada would have been a municipality around it.
I think it would have concluded Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
And and everyone else. And this is when we start to kind of start to go into the BRT section of Ottawa's transit history here.
Which again is bus rapid transit.
Yeah. From 1973 to 83, kind of Ottawa, the OC Transpo was formed. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. One of the most important things about OC Transpo being formed is for the first time in Ottawa's history, the transit system is being funded by the municipal government, and is meant to run off of that funding and not only fares. Like it's not meant to completely run off of fares. It's meant to be able to run at a deficit to provide a public service, rather than just running off of fares and trying to be a successful business, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is good. Public transit doesn't need to turn a profit. It should be sustainable, but like cities fully don't function without public transit.
Oh, yeah. And I can see, honestly, I can see pros and cons to them, because I'm like, it's good that they don't have to run on fares alone, but I feel like maybe they took not having to be a successful business a little too literally.
they have other goals. I think.
Which is good. Those should be the other goals.
But yeah, it is annoying sometimes when they're not providing great service, you think.
Yeah, though I very much don't think that's because they don't have a profit motive.
I don't mean profit at all. No, I don't mean profit. Yeah. Just their lack of success sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. So after 1983, 1973 to 1983, ridership increases a lot. They, start to roll out bus service to kind of like the whole city. And in 1983, they start building the BRT system, which in Ottawa was like made up of transitway, so fully dedicated lanes. And the goal was to bring people from the suburbs and the inner suburbs all to downtown and then back out again. In Ottawa, there's a very, I think, centralized downtown area. I mean, like many other cities, with a lot of federal government jobs and stuff in one area. So this BRT, I think, has been successful in a lot of ways and also unsuccessful in a lot of ways. I mean, talking about the good things, right? I think a lot of people have fond memories of it because of how fast you could get from your house to downtown.
Shout out to the 257.
Yes, and using those commuter buses like the 257, where you wouldn't even have to transfer to get downtown. You just walk outside your house, take one bus all the way downtown, and then take one bus all the way back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was really nice for commuting, but ridership kind of went down in the off-peak hours. If you were taking the system for reasons other than commuting, you kind of had a hard time.
Yeah, because, back on the 257, it was blessed when I was going to work I worked pretty near Tony's pasture, so that was really great because I would just walk like 4 or 5 minutes, take 257 there, walk like 15 minutes at work. And then, vice versa. But yeah, I think it just straight up doesn't run. I mean, last I checked, it doesn't run on the weekends, and it would run like one direction to downtown at like seven, like every like 20 or 30 minutes from like 7 to 9 or something, or like 6:30 to 9 or 9:30 or whatever. And then it would run the opposite direction for like a 2 or 3 hour stretch, probably 3 hour stretch going the other way. And that's like it.
Yeah. And like making that same trip when it's not commuting time is a bit more difficult. I mean, like actually going towards Tony's pasture from where you are, like you take the 168 or the 161,
Mhm.
and you can kind of time that like you time the commuter bus. It's also like every 30 minutes or something. And then you transfer to the transitway buses, which usually come around, have a pretty good frequency.
Like every 5, maybe.
Yeah, actually on the transitway itself. And so that part of the going there is actually not too bad in off-peak hours, but then coming back, you don't get to decide when the local bus you need to take is going to show up. So you could be waiting for up to 30 minutes for your local bus to
Yeah.
bring you back to your house. Um, and that kind of makes the system really annoying to use in off-peak hours.
Yeah. Just
Um,
from like experience, if I was like going to like a bar after work or something, what I would almost always do, like if it's a bar downtown, was I would take the 61 back to the Eagles and Park and Ride, and then almost always take a cab back to my house or walk an hour. One of those two.
Yeah, I think I just tested out walking from like it was like the 80 using the 88,
Oh,
and
okay.
it took
Yeah.
like 30 minutes to walk from Hazeldean Mall to my house, which like if the buses aren't coming super soon means I can get home faster by walking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which is a little bit annoying.
Mhm.
Um, Also, I think even during even with the transitway being all this big thing, a lot of the ridership was still just in the local routes around downtown Ottawa, which might have been helped by the transitway existing, but still the strong, actually frequent local bus routes around downtown were kind of the heart of the system.
Which,
Um,
I mean, checks out. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, always probably going to be the case to an extent because,
Yeah.
I mean, usually downtown core is the most dense area. Makes
Most
the most sense
populated.
for it to be very transit oriented,
Yeah.
especially if you've got like good commuter feeders bringing people in without their cars. Then they can get around downtown that way.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Well, and just I feel like it just will always be that way because it does have the most people.
mhm.
So
Yeah. Also, maybe I should mention this now. Also, OC Transpo is only meant to serve Ottawa and not Gatineau, which is
yes,
a
This is a
kind of a
good
big
point.
oversight in transit in the region.
so weird. Because again, when I used to work in Gatineau, I had to get 2 different transit passes. I had to get the um the Gatineau one because Ottawa works for Presto, and I already had that from Waterloo. And then so I would use my Presto in Ottawa, but they don't accept Presto on the Gatineau buses. So I had to get a full Gatineau transit. It's called what's it
The
called again?
STO.
Yeah, I had to get an STO pass, which also you cannot do online or at the station. You have to go to like a office to.
Oh,
Oh,
Maybe
that's
they've
annoying.
changed that. They might have changed that since
Maybe.
2019, I would imagine. But so that was very weird. I just had to pay in coins for like the first couple weeks of work until I could get that all finalized and everything.
And for listeners who aren't so familiar with Ottawa, basically the situation is Ottawa is like right on the border between two provinces of Ontario and Quebec. And so like on one side of the river is most of Ottawa in Ontario, but then on the other side of the river, there's a lot of places where people live and work in Gatineau. That's very much part of the city, but is also in a different province. So it
Yeah,
can cause some headaches
yeah.
and some issues.
yeah. It's like a third of the region's population is in Gatineau, I think,
I did not know it was that much, but it
or
is actually a very
maybe a
big
bit less than
area.
that. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually more of an oversight than I thought it was.
Yeah,
Jesus,
wow.
I thought it was much smaller than that.
Yeah.
That's massive, especially because it's right across. A lot of it's right across from the downtown
You
core.
can walk across that bridge in like 15 minutes. So the fact that the buses don't even go there.
There
Well,
was some big disagreements in like the streetcar era too over like who gets the rights to send the streetcar over or over the bridges,
Mhm.
like between the Ottawa streetcar and the Gatineau streetcar, and they each got their own bridge in different places.
Just could
That
not
sounds
share.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So basically, ridership from this BRT network since 1983. In 1983, the ridership was like 85 million.
Per year?
Yes. In 1 year, 85 million. I think pre-COVID, it was like 2018 was like 96 million.
Okay, so that's like approximate. That's like just shy of, I guess, half a mil a week, 500,000 trips a week.
Yeah, I think so. But basically,
Like,
what I'm trying to say is that ridership has not really gone up by that much
because
in
yeah,
the
that's like
last
40 years.
40 years.
Yeah,
Like, ridership per capita has gone down.
pretty starkly, I'd imagine.
Yeah. It's it's gone and that's kind of the drawback that I guess the BRT system has had, or the failure that the BRT system has had.
Mhm.
Um, and also the other thing that's happening with the BRT system, or that happened with the BRT system, is that the downtown core, they kept adding more and more buses to the BRT system, and it got to the point where the downtown core was completely full. Um, and there was 180 buses going through the downtown core per hour, per direction. So that's like a bus every 20 seconds. And
Sounds
so,
amazing.
Again, this is like what the Confederation Line, the East-West line's replacing, right? Is a literal line just going off into the distance of local buses.
yeah. Well, not just local buses,
Oh,
also
and
lots of,
express.
it's
Okay.
more so, yeah,
Or
a lot of
transit
express
line.
buses.
Just the most buses that one street can contain. Or that
Yeah.
multiple streets, I guess, can contain.
Yeah.
And it is kind of cool, right? It's like super high frequency, obviously, but it was at full capacity. Like, it wasn't able to be expanded anymore, which is kind of a problem for a city like Ottawa that is growing a lot. So something had to happen here, and that's part of why. So like the capacity and the ridership is part of why something had to happen, and trains were now in people's minds as an option. Maybe
That
those
that
trains.
makes sense because they've maxed out what they can do with buses on most of the corridors, like in the transitway corridors. That's just, you can't do much more there if you already can't physically fit more buses
Yeah.
into the roads.
I think maybe there could have been some things they could have done to try and
I guess like more buses on parallel streets or something like that. But
yeah, or they could. Oh,
Just one
I
more
don't know if
lane,
this would
bro.
work in our climate, but like the bi-articulated buses.
What is that?
oh, true,
No,
two
like
articulation bits.
yeah, they've got two bendy bits.
Whoa. Wait, what? Holy.
I think
That's just a road train.
yeah. I forget where they are. I think there's at least some in like Bogota, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, I mean, Bogota's big on their bus rapid transit now. So
Yeah. And several other cities. I think a lot of Latin American cities are
Wait,
big on
what?
BRT.
Sorry, I just opened up the Wikipedia for bi-articulated buses, and there is a Canada section.
What?
Because in November 2019, Quebec City's Réseau de
Whoa.
Transport de la Capitale announced that it's planning to open the city's first BRT line using a fleet of bi-articulated electric buses.
Whoa.
Oh my
It's the
God.
first and only North American city to make such an announcement.
Are they?
There's also this one I'm seeing here. Some what do you call them? Like intercity buses, like like Greyhound type thing. I'm seeing here a picture of a double decker bi-articulated passenger bus.
What?
It's gigantic.
insane.
It's like a
How is
yacht.
possible?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can hold 8 quadrillion people in there.
Yeah, so maybe something like that. Maybe they could have
Anyways, suffice it to say, they're looking for a new solution because they're running out of.
Yeah.
They're hitting a problem.
They're running into a wall, and they need something else. So, it's like a new millennium, guys.
Okay.
The year like 2000.
Okay. Y2K.
and Ontario wants to reorganize the municipalities.
Oh no.
Ontario loves to do that.
They do like to do that.
They do like to do that.
All these separate things? Nah.
Let's combine them.
What if they were all the same?
So, Ottawa got amalgamated with all of its suburbs and everything into one municipality, and they've elected a new mayor, who some people in Ottawa might know, Bob Shirelli.
Yeah.
He actually ran in our last election.
Really?
Oh my god, he's still going. Okay.
That's bold.
Yeah, I think he got like 11 or 15% of the vote or something. But he is very old now.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, because I remember, like, the election before that one, I saw that he was running. And because he was mayor for what, like a while, like 14 years or something?
He was mayor of Ottawa for 5 years.
It seemed like ages, huh? Okay, this dude is... Okay, he is 82.
82 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So running for mayor.
This dude does not...
Like 81.
This dude does not rest.
Yeah, but he does kind of like trains.
Woo.
A little bit, So under Bob Shirelli, we're going to make a pilot project to test out if this LRT thing, if you will, works. Let's see. I mean, ignore all of the cities that have amazing transit systems.
Yeah.
We're going to do a pilot project.
Well, that's like the funniest thing to me with Ottawa transit is that Montreal is right there and Toronto is right there. So I'm like, kind of just do what they did.
You can just ask.
Yeah, like, hey, how'd you do that?
Yeah. Even Vancouver isn't like that far away. It's in
exactly.
Canada,
Very true. Yeah.
So,
actually, Vancouver probably would have been an even better good place to call for help because that's a very similar sized city as well. But anyways,
they're a bit bigger.
They're a bit bigger, but closer.
Yeah,
probably one of the more comparable ones, or at least comparable.
We're like
transit,
the same size as like Calgary.
Yeah, but you can reach. You can aspire to be better than the C train.
Hey, don't be dissing the C train.
I think
another
the C
city
train
who's
went
building
a lot
an LRT.
Yeah, I think the C train's cool.
The C train is cool. They're the new thing they're adding. I don't know about.
It seems less cool because they just got upsold on an LRT instead of continuing to use their like existing high floor trams.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Anyways.
This pilot project. Now I know we're going to talk about like the Confederation Line project and all the problems that happened with it and how it went horribly in a lot of ways. But this pilot project was kind of amazing.
Okay.
Like okay, the Confederation Line project in total, it's a lot bigger of a project, but it cost $2.1 billion, right?
Yeah.
And this tiny pilot project, it's like 5 stations instead of like 13. It's like a bit shorter, but it cost $21 million.
So that's 1/100th of that.
Yes, fully a 100th of the cost.
Yeah,
it's like $3 million. Oh yeah, per mile. I don't know why the report put it in per mile, but
oh, that's weird.
But yeah.
And then wait, so And this is, I guess, covering some of the area that's now the Trillium Line, right?
Yes, it's what the Trillium Line used to be back when, back before it's being upgraded. And it's mainly located, for anyone, there's a major university on it, so that's where it kind of gets its ridership from usually, and it connects two parts of the transitway up.
So it was like Carleton to
the transitway, basically, right?
Yeah, it connects Carleton to Bayview, and it connects Carleton to whatever, I guess it's Greenboro.
Oh yeah,
I think is on the transitway or was on.
That's on line 2 now, so makes sense that it
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah, so a really good infill kind of in the transit system. It served a cool new purpose almost. It only cost $21 million. It only cost that much because there was rail there already. They just kind of bought the line or the rail line from Canadian Pacific, and then actually contracted out building like the stations and stuff to Canadian Pacific. And
that's interesting.
They kind of built. They built and also contracted out stuff to build the stations, build the signaling, and all we bought was like 3 trains to run on the line.
That's all they had?
Yeah, just 3 trains. It's only 5 stations. It's only.
Yeah, what would the headway be on that? Because it was okay, right?
Every 15 minutes there would be a train.
That's not awful.
It's not awful, and it apparently, according to this report, it says it would require 15 articulated buses to replace the 3 trains, and keep the same level of service. So, and one of the greatest things about this line also is the on-time performance.
Okay, well, okay, yes. I was just since we're talking about OC Transpo, I feel like that's like it can only be better than now. Yeah,
yeah. OC Transpo's like bus schedule is like the greatest work of fiction I've ever
yeah. It's like bus is supposed to come here. Oh my gosh, it was such an adjustment moving to Toronto because I've done it. Like I would like get to the bus stop like 10 minutes before it's supposed to come, and like in Ottawa, I'd get there like 10 minutes before it's supposed to come, and I'd only say it's not coming if it's like 10 or so minutes after it was supposed to come. So. But
yeah, like this, even hearing you guys earlier talking about like timing when you were going to leave for the bus, I'm like, what? Why would you do that? You just leave and then you just go to the bus and it comes.
No.
I wish.
Yeah.
So this O-Train, the Trillium Line, has 99% on-time performance, which is pretty good,
Wow.
compared to the rest of the system, which apparently had 70% on-time performance.
Well, what's their definition of on-time performance?
I could not find that in the thing.
Okay.
Which I was very sad about. I know that OC Transpo, though, has sometimes like tried to skew, I think, on-time performance in their favor before.
Oh, yes, because I was reading about that a while ago because I was like, how the heck is like what is going on here? So I was reading about OC Transpo on-time performance, and they said it's like 80% or something. I'm like, no way. But their definition of on-time performance was no more than 5 minutes early and no more than 5 minutes late. So I'm like,
oh, that's a tighter tolerance than honestly I would have expected.
Yeah, but
I thought it would be like within 10 or 20 minutes.
I'm like, if it's like, if your bus is 4 minutes late and your connection is 4 minutes early, you're missing that every time, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think they didn't like count if your bus just didn't got like canceled at all.
That's true.
Like that wouldn't count as a late,
which happens regularly.
performance.
And skews the data.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I guess also another section of statistics, like how many buses get just canceled. It's like 3% of buses get canceled or something,
Which is pretty high.
Yeah, it's like oh, only 3%, but that's like a lot of trips. Like you will experience your bus being canceled.
Yeah, because if you take it,
And if it's
like,
only coming every like 30 minutes, that's huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if you're taking like there and back 5 days a week, like that's once every couple weeks. Your bus once every like 3 weeks, your bus will just get canceled. So,
Yeah.
And
But-
like that's definitely a good question to ask, because I feel like those comparisons get made, especially like if you try and compare like European to North American like standards for on-time performance.
Yeah.
It's apples and oranges, because like Switzerland will have like within like 30 seconds tolerances or whatever and be like 99%, and will be more like 70% within like 10 minutes or whatever.
yeah,
So it's even worse than it looks. But these stats that Declan was just saying, I assume they're apples to apples, because it's like within OC Transpo train to
and
bus.
99%. I feel like unless you have an absolutely redonkulous definition, is great. You know, 99% on time.
I think also like the Confederation line, just to note, is also something like 99% on time performance if you like exclude the like, you know, massive shutdowns.
Yeah. It's either, if you don't include the shutdowns, then it's 99% on time. If you do include the shutdowns and counting all those as late, then it's probably like 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, but I feel like you got to be trying real hard to mess it up if your totally grade separated rail project is on time or is constantly late or early.
Well, I guess that's true, because like you don't really plan train timings. I feel like for metros, you know, like nobody's, I guess, looking up when the subway's coming.
Not so much. Yeah. Like it doesn't have any of the same issues, or most of the same issues that like buses have of traffic and all that really mess them up.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty good.
Just
Yeah.
a cheeky train stabbing, so they have to close the platform for a little bit.
It could happen.
God. Yeah. So then some other things. Why is it it's a diesel train that they used for this line?
Oh.
And they just did that because it was the fastest, kind of cheapest way to just get the pilot project up and running, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they've just bought existing like freight rails, and freight rails aren't going to have. I mean, it'd be based if they had overhead wires, but they usually do not. So that kind of makes sense.
There's usually not overhead wires, at least in Canada, for freight rail. Unfortunately,
that would be sick though. We should do that.
Other cool things. The project only took 2 years, and that includes the planning process.
What?
Build. Yeah. Again, it's a pretty small project, but
I mean, again, that
amazing.
Coming back to like that's just like keeping the scope in check too. Like you said, they only built 5 stations, but if I'm not mistaken, these are kind of bus stop level of stations, right? Like it's about as simple as you can physically get.
Yeah.
Which is excellent for getting stuff started.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes it doesn't need to be complicated, you know.
In fact, it usually doesn't have to be overbuilt.
Yeah.
Like I think even actually I don't know, but yeah. And this will come up later, but they used a design build contract with Canadian Pacific to build this. We can talk more about that.
It's fascinating that they had Canadian Pacific build this too. Like notably someone that does not run any kind of passenger rail even. But it's a train company, I guess, so they know trains.
Yeah.
They also needed to build a signaling system because technically the Trillium Line doesn't anymore, but it used to have an intersection with freight railways that it had to have some signaling for. That was one of the only maybe difficult parts of the project was. But yeah.
Okay, but they fully own this line too, you said, right? Like it's not like a Waterloo situation where there's still freight rail going through every now and then.
Yeah, no. There's no freight rail going through. I mean, the one side of the Bayview, the train bridge has been turned into a pedestrian path now. Path.
I'm so conflicted.
Yeah, I think.
Oh wait, I know the exact one. I know which one that is. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Walked around there.
It's actually so nice to walk on, but I'm still like, we could connect to Gatineau with this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate.
um,
All right, so pilot program based.
pilot
Yes.
program went fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh wait, sorry. What's our? Do they have the ridership numbers for?
Oh wait, I think they were here. I didn't write them down. Daily ridership 9,000 plus, which is good, I think.
For a pilot train, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know what the best comparison would be for that because it's like 5 stations.
Yeah, it's basically.
Ottawa.
I imagine the large majority of it would be if you study or work at Carleton, and you
Yeah.
live in those other places,
Oh, actually,
then you're getting to Carleton. I would guess.
I can also figure out the max capacity that it could have, I think,
That's a good point.
if I look at
Yeah, like the only comparison that's coming to mind is the Shepherd Line in Toronto, but I don't know if that's totally fair because Toronto's a bigger city.
Yeah.
But that one's also 5 stations and has like 40,000 daily ridership.
Yeah, but I guess how long has it been around?
Longer. Actually, no. It opened in 2002, about the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like I mean, like because it's been open like since so.
Mm-hmm.
But then also to be fair, I guess that's more out of town. So
Yeah, I feel like honestly, it's probably not a fair comparison again because it's a bigger city, but cool. It seems like pilot program, pretty good.
yeah,
It
Yeah,
got the job done. They figured it out.
it's like 1,000 people or something an hour per direction, which is like great for like 3 trains, I think.
yeah.
And again, it replaces like 15 buses, so it's just really good for maintenance.
Well, and how many cars too does that replace?
Oh, it
Even
does say
more.
that. It says
Loads.
3,000 cars removed
Yeah,
per day.
Excellent.
which is pretty good.
And again,
That-
like there's stuff
yeah.
that they could definitely improve on. Like for like a downtown metro should be better than in 15-minute headway, and like you really should be using electric trains. But again, pilot project, they got the ball rolling.
Getting the
It's a
people
good start.
going.
Yeah.
Room
So
to grow.
after a very successful pilot project, what do?
Keep going. Do it again.
Keep going. Make it bigger.
Yes.
And so there was a plan to make it bigger. And the plan was started. I think Bob Shirelli started the plan, started doing the contracts and stuff. The plan was going to be $800 million. It was going to extend the line to downtown Ottawa. It was going to electrify the line. The trains would run like on the street in downtown, like where the buses run or used to run, like Albert Slater, down the streets of Ottawa, kind of in a loop almost. And then it would also be extended south all the way to Barhaven. And
Wow.
part of that extension south, like part of what they are doing today, is also building a new suburb in Riverside South.
That's an actually shocking development. Building a housing development in tandem with a rapid transit project in the center of it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's some forethought.
Yeah.
It's like,
Wait, is this Canada?
urban sprawl. Don't like urban sprawl, but like this one bit of urban sprawl is actually like got transit involved.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so to like summarize, so then the downtown section you said would be on street. So that it's basically turning into a kind of a streetcar or tramway type situation for downtown.
Yes, I think
Okay.
a tramway type situation would best describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Like,
did it have a separate lane? Sorry, like could cars still drive on its tracks or no?
I assume it wouldn't, or I assume cars wouldn't be able to drive on the tracks, because I think even the buses had their own lanes in the BRT system.
Oh, okay.
So it would be separated.
Good.
Yeah.
So more tramway, like we talked about before, than
Yeah.
streetcar, probably.
Yeah. So I think very much similar to the C train in Calgary and the Edmonton's train as well. They have downtown sections like that. Yeah. And I think also is Waterloo's like that too. It's got, sections like that.
Oh, Waterloo's is amazing, man. Shouldn't we talk about it? But it's fully separated. Like cars can't drive on the train tracks, and it gets stoplight priority every time with gates that go across the traffic. So you can't just run across. Like actual gates come down every time the train passes.
Very
Oh,
good.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so good.
There's one light on the 88 that I know of that has light priority, and that's like, but it's only one traffic light.
Yeah,
I wish they would give it to more of it, but
yeah.
yeah. So this project was going along, and then there was another election, 2006. Bob Shirelli has been voted out. I'm not sure. I don't think Bob Shirelli even got second place in the election.
Why was everyone
Which
so
is
cheesed?
crazy for incumbent.
Yeah, like that
is,
seems
yeah, that would be
seems like
wild.
scandal numbers. Like
What happened there?
I'm not actually sure.
Oh yeah, he's third. I just looked it up.
I
By
think
a wide margin, he lost. Yeah.
I think the most votes he got were like directly around the O-Train that he built, kind of. But
Yeah, he didn't even win a single ward. Okay.
yeah,
what did he do?
I honestly don't know. Is there a good section?
I'm reading his Wikipedia right now. It doesn't seem like there was much. Oh, his opponents in the election alleged that the project. Okay, wait. Okay, here we go. Shirelli's main project was the expansion of the city's light rail system. A north-south line would run from Barrhaven to downtown Ottawa starting in 2009. His opponents in the election alleged that the project had been undertaken without sufficient consultation or communication with the public. The project... Oh, that's a spoiler.
No, you can.
The project was cancelled shortly after his departure of City Hall.
Yeah, Larry O'Brien was elected, and I think part of his platform was to review the project.
Oh, no. You never like to hear that.
And I think in the end he wanted to cut the downtown portion but do the Barrhaven extension.
Which is very bizarre.
I assume that's because that was the cheaper part.
I think so. That yeah, a lot of it is on former rail, just on disused rail, and then
It's almost too bad that didn't happen because it would be such a weird anomaly in the world that you take your that you get on the train in the suburbs and have to transfer to a bus for downtown.
yeah,
Very true. Yeah,
That'd be weird.
I mean, that's kind of like current Honolulu transit, I guess.
Oh, sure.
that's true.
Though that's just because their first phase was in an easier part, a little bit more outside of town. But it's going to be good. It's the most based transit project I think in the U.S. right now.
Wow, I got to read about this.
Yeah, because it's like super modern. It's all automated. It's got platform screen doors. It's like legit one of the most modern transit projects going on in. I guess it's not really North America because it's Hawaii. It's in the middle of the Pacific, but
in a North American territory.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're taking the opposite approach to Ottawa, where like we started stage 1 is downtown, then it goes out further and further. They've started in the suburbs and are going into the city,
which I feel like is probably maybe good. Reflecting on, I mean, we'll get to what happened with the Ottawa one, but to start on a little bit more easy mode as you build up your expertise with just running a rail system.
I don't know though, because
build it up more.
Well, I'm just thinking in Ottawa, like say it started in Barrhaven or started in Canada, I feel like they would not have been met with much success. Like I don't know, maybe that's pessimistic, but I feel like a lot of Canada and Barrhaven is sort of inherently distrustful of public transport.
That is probably a fair point. Yeah, that's very car centric. I don't know how successful. I don't think it would have been successful by itself, but it might be a good like starting point potentially. We're getting
Yeah.
into alternate history here
Yeah.
as part of like a phase one of like many phases, maybe.
Yeah.
I think
Wait,
the
so-
problem also with Ottawa is that it would be like 3 disjointed suburban lines to start.
Mhm.
Oh, you have like East
well,
End.
Honolulu just has one. It's like the whole system is going to be one line, and they're just starting with one side of it
Oh, okay.
that happens to be in the suburbs.
Okay, that's fair.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're just going forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would have to like create 3 separate train
Things that
yards
then
and
meet up.
stuff, and then
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the
Okay,
east,
that's
the
fair.
south, and the west.
yeah.
Mhm.
Unless we just started with one suburb, I don't
That's
know.
true. That would be difficult. Yeah, because it'd be like, would it be Barhaven? Would it be Canada? Would it be like East End?
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Probably
be Gad,
East
but
End. But anyways, yeah,
The East End is closer.
it is. Yeah, I feel like maybe a little denser, but not,
Maybe.
not by much.
Yeah. So this project gets canceled. Unfortunately.
boo.
I think unfortunately. I haven't actually. I don't really know if the project would have been good, but I think it would have been good to do transit. It's always good to do transit.
Yeah.
You know?
Even if it's better to have a suboptimal train system than no train system.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Also, this plan maybe might have hinted that running trams in the streets of downtown Ottawa might not be super politically viable, which might be some foreshadowing.
and just repeating history a little bit.
Yeah. And then
Which is kind of funny and shows like the bit of the cycle in that like right now we're in a moment where everybody's like, let's not do metros. Let's just run a bunch of trams. Let's just put all of our downtown core of our system on the streets with the cars. It's
with
like,
the
no,
cars.
stop. I'm looking at you, Montreal.
Before we get to the Confederation Line, well, kind of part of the Confederation Line, under Larry O'Brien still, they're starting to plan this Confederation Line project. And
so is Larry O'Brien, does he have a hard stance on trains, or is he kind of whatever?
He kind of won the vote with mostly suburban voters. I'm not entirely sure what his stance is, but he is part of this planning process to build this new train. And also, it's hard to look up Larry O'Brien because I think there's a Larry O'Brien in the Republican Party in the United States.
Oh, okay, because I just Googled him right now. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to get the mayor.
Honestly, I don't know much about him, which obviously was like 6 at the time he was elected. But the vibe I've gotten is that he's a typical like, we got to bring more business mindset to our government or to our municipal government, which doesn't usually go well.
Be a grown up and buy a car to drive to your job downtown.
Former CEO kind of deal.
Oh, he went to Maryville High School.
What? He said
And
that one
Algonquin.
solution to the problem of homeless youth sleeping under a bridge was to replace them with a tourist kiosk. What?
How does that make any sense? How does that help?
I have no idea.
That doesn't sound like a home.
No, not really.
And also, what, are the tourists going to look at all the homeless people sleeping under the bridge?
Be inspired to consume
Yeah.
local Ottawa products.
You don't want to be like this. You should buy real estate.
Yeah. Like a businessman kind of platform, I think.
Okay.
But part of the start of the Confederation Line project under Larry O'Brien is in 2009, there's a thing called the Declan report. I don't. It's literally my name, except you switch the L and the C around.
I know. I'm looking at the notes as well,
So-
glancing, and I thought that said Declan report. I was like, what is this part of the notes? I don't remember that.
Delkin Denny.
yeah. And I just want to talk about this report because this kind of sets up what type of transit technology is going to be used for the Confederation Line. It's kind of a contractor, the Declan company, or whatever they're called, Declan Incorporated or something, trying to do an objective kind of study on whether Ottawa should pursue like light rail or light metro or metro. I think is also in the running. I think they kind of
They dabbled.
they dabble in the metro, but I think they cut it out of the process eventually and settle on we want light metro or LRT, which in the report they define LRT just as like just by using comparisons. Just saying, oh yeah, something like the C train or the Edmonton LRT or Minneapolis LRT or Houston LRT. I think those are the 4 examples they use in the definition section, which I'm not.
Houston has an LRT.
Yeah,
That's
what?
a surprising development.
Yes.
Based on my knowledge of Houston transit, I'm going to assume that's a terrible example. But
I forget if it's Houston or Dallas. I think one of them actually has like a decent light rail system.
I'm going to guess it's Dallas because I don't think it's Houston, but I could be very wrong.
I forget which one, and they're planning to do high-speed rail between them, right? I think.
Oh yeah, Texas has a big high-speed rail plan.
I guess they've been planning.
Holy cow, what?
Between the 3 big Texas cities.
That's crazy.
Dallas and Houston first, and then they might do an extension to San Antonio.
Wasn't it like Austin or something?
And Austin. Oh, I see Austin. Yeah.
Have they considered high frequency?
No, don't do it. Don't fall for it.
Yeah. I hope their plan is to buy Japanese bullet trains, and I love that so much.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
But
okay.
imagine Shinkansens going through Texas.
Wow, that would
amazing.
be. I would go to Texas just to ride that.
Oh, 100%. Me too. Yeah. What do you say, Shinkansen?
Yeah.
I haven't actually had to say that out loud before. Shinkansen with a little cowboy hat, like blazing along.
Just absolutely blasting through the desert.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It would be awesome. Okay, but okay, this report it defines LRT like that, which I feel like gives the vibes mostly like a tramway type system / light metro. Like the C train has got a lot of light metro and then a tramway downtown. And I think similar in Edmonton, and I'm not entirely sure about Minneapolis and Houston. But then it defines light metro as kind of like the Vancouver SkyTrain and also a Japanese, I think the Kobe mini subway or whatever it's called. I'm not familiar with that one either, but basically I think as we kind of what's so weird about this is that the O-Train, the Confederation Line train, the system, the transportation system they built and are planning to build doesn't fit into either of these categories. Really. You know? It's like it's a light metro, but it uses the light vehicle trains. So is it like for some of these categories that it uses, some of the criteria that it judges them on, it just doesn't feel like they're judging what the Confederation Line will be. Like, okay.
Was that
because it's like they've got the trains from one category, from like the tramway, but then they've got the infrastructure and the system design of more like light metro, and they're almost maybe is it that they're picking and choosing based on like which one would perform better in each category?
Well, yeah. Wait, was this the recommendation of this report, the Declan report?
Its recommendation in the end was that it should just be light rail in the whole system, basically. Which is what ended up happening. And okay, one of the craziest things is there is a chart here that I think Aiden can see. And at the top of it, it says, this is going to come up later, by the way. the
Foreshadowing.
the combination of light rail vehicle with a CBTC system, which is a type of signaling system that allows for really high frequencies, to provide 20,000 people per hour per direction, has not yet been proven in revenue service.
Huh.
Which is a very
That is an important line.
That's an important line. And then there's like 8 criteria here. On the 7th criteria, it says proven in service, and it says LRT good.
Oh, but with note 1. So refer to note 1. Is that it hasn't actually done it before? So this is a theoretical?
Requires automatic train control such communications based. The note 1 just says it will require CBTC.
Yeah, so
it will be good.
But isn't that exactly what they're saying not to do?
Well, it's what they're saying hasn't ever been done before.
I think it's saying it's proven in service. Note, it hasn't been done before.
Oh, so they're like, this seems like a good idea. Has anyone ever done it? No.
The C train works well. The Edmonton train works well. I'm sure it'll work with CBTC.
It's kind of similar.
Which is, I guess it directly says it's a communication-based train control, which, again, it just allows for higher frequencies.
Is that like, what's it, the adjustable distance versus block distance, kind of?
I think that could be true. I think it's on line 1 of the Toronto subway, and they're converting line 2 to also have it now.
Yes, that's true. I know. That's why it was familiar to me, because Toronto's just getting it, and this is a decades-old tech at this point that really every metro should be using. It's basically the difference between like splitting up your metro system into like different segments, and basically saying, if there's a train in this segment, put a red light on the segment behind it so that trains don't get too close together, versus this new system that's able to like track where the trains are, and based off of their speed, like do kind of an adjustable boundary around them. That basically just means you can run trains closer together while still having it be safe, which is huge, because you can go from like 3-minute headways down to like 20-30 second minute headways.
Which one is the Toronto Metro? Because I've noticed that, just to do with like signal lights and stuff, I'm being conditioned to be really excited when I see a flashing blue light, because that means the train's coming.
Oh, that's actually, I'm not sure. I assume that would maybe be the more old school, like block light signaling, but I don't know.
Because it's normally solid red, but then when the train's like within 1 minute or whatever, it's a flashing blue light.
I haven't looked to it that much. I don't know if they, because they're able to use the system on line 1. I don't know if they actually do yet. I assume they would.
Do they not use it yet?
Probably. I am going out on a limb here. I should look that up at some point. But I think the flashing blue and red and all that is more of the old school kind of method. Though they might still have it as like an indicator for people around, or for employees in the station who aren't like looking at their screens or whatnot. But I don't know.
Yeah. But some of the other criteria in this report is a little bit crazy. Like, some of the criteria is the ability to have low passenger capacity in the extensions.
The ability to have low passenger capacity?
Yes.
What is it?
Wait, what does this mean?
Yeah. Can you like, always have that?
The light rail vehicles out in the extensions, I guess, will be light rail vehicles, and
so
will be lower capacity.
Wait, so then you'd have to, along one line, like switch vehicles, like.
Or is it that fucking like right now there's 2 cars along the whole thing? Would they like lose a car or something? How are they lowering capacity? Or are they just saying that it's fine that it's lower capacity at the extensions? Or that it's lower ridership? What?
Okay. So, since I think at least in the West, I think since the system splits at like Lincoln Fields, it goes down to half the frequency in the extensions. And it's saying with light rail vehicles, you have lower capacity on those light rail vehicles, and that better fits the suburban mindset, or not mindset, density.
Okay.
Which
And
is funny. but-
another thing to keep in mind is this report also assumes that the suburbs will get like a tramway style more service, where we'll run trams on like in the streets themselves.
Yeah.
It won't be completely grade separated, which again isn't actually what happened in our system. We're going to make it all completely grade separated, and so it's just a kind of a useless criteria in the end.
Like it just kind of reminds me of, I heard this interview with a guy who worked in traffic engineering a lot, and he was saying often in North American traffic planning, road building versus transit building are opposite in their goals, as in the goal is to build the minimum amount for transit often, and the goal like hoping that just like, or like finding the maximum, or finding the minimum required and building for that, versus often for traffic it's finding the maximum required and building for that. So this kind of sounds like that. It's like, well, we probably won't need, or like it seems like we won't need as many in the suburbs, so let's make sure we don't give them more.
Yeah.
Actually, circling back to the lower capacity in the suburbs, I'm remembering now, Toronto does do that too, actually. Like you can think about line 1. The trains don't usually, or don't always go all the way out to the ends.
They
Some
don't?
will like short turn back. Yeah, so I think there is
Wait,
lower frequency.
What? On line
farther
1?
out. Yeah, on line 1.
You sure?
I don't think that's always. I think it might be more of a rush hour type thing where they want to keep trains more closer to the like downtown. But I believe some trains will like short turn, either like St. Clair or Eglinton. I'm not sure how often or how frequently they do that, but that does happen.
Huh. I know they do that for sure on line 2 as well. But it's kind of funny because the short turn is like 3 stations from the end or something on like the east side.
On the east side, I actually don't know as much about. But on the west side, I feel like it's more fair because especially since they did the big extension, that's a fair bit of track left to cover.
Oh yeah,
and much less.
No, I'm fine with the express trains. I just think it's funny. Like, well, because I'd never seen that like with here, like catching.
Well, it's not an express train. It's just they like don't cover the whole thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I feel like this report doesn't consider short stopping. I don't know why it doesn't consider that. I feel like it should have just.
Wait,
it should have just.
If they're not talking about short stopping, okay, maybe we just won't know what.
Actually,
they were talking
their plan for the suburbs. Obviously, the suburbs, they wanted to put trains in the streets, so they needed to have tram style trains for the suburbs. So the light rail option is having light rail in center and then having people inline transfer to a suburban style tram kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So it is fully like a inline transfer. So transferring to a different type of train when you get to the suburbs.
So it's like going from line 2 to rest in peace line 3 in Toronto. I mean, that's the same type of train, but like that idea where it's like just a straight line, but you just have to get off and go.
Yes. That exact thing. And again, we ended up basically making the grade separated thing plan to go all the way out into the suburbs. So this is kind of, again...
This became obsolete.
Like
it was already kind of weird.
Yeah.
Ability to build a non-segregated system in low-density areas. Again, same thing. It's like, we didn't end up doing that anyway.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So it's like LRT wins on these like 3 sections that we didn't even end up doing.
Yeah.
There's the capital cost, which when I looked at the capital cost chart in this as well, it was something like 100 million average cost for like a light metro per kilometer. Or I think it was per kilometer. Yeah. And then LRT was like 50 million. It might not have been per kilometer. But yeah. Basically, LRT was like half the cost of the light metro. But if you look at what the Confederation ended up costing, it was like 160 million per kilometer or something.
Yeah, and I think
I
I was talking to you about it a few weeks ago, and you mentioned that I don't know if it was that estimate or just like a later estimate of the cost was just fully based on like the Toronto streetcar network and saying, okay, we're just gonna, if we costed this out as if it were a streetcar, this is what it would cost, and now we're gonna build something else.
Yes, they included like the Toronto streetcar in some of their LRT analysis, and it's like
very different.
That's not the same thing as like the C train or the Edmonton one or the O train at all.
I don't know where they're. Oh yeah, right here. System cost per million. TTC Transit City LRT is very good per kilometers apparently.
For how much it costs.
Yeah, it's like 50 million or just over 50 million per kilometer.
Wow.
Still a little bit higher than the Vancouver SkyTrain though. At
Jesus
least the
Christ.
Millennium Line. Some of the other lines are more expensive.
Yeah, the SkyTrain was a good project, right? Like very affordably built, I think.
Yeah.
It's like up there with like the REM for like really good value for money.
Oh, the REM. I wish these people had the REM when doing this report.
Oh,
what's the REM?
Montreal's new transit project. I mean, Montreal has the REM, and they're still just going, no, we should cancel it and build trams instead. But it's so good. It's a project that's the first phase is now open, but I think there's a bunch more phases coming, and that will eventually double the size of their metro system.
And their metro system is already very nice.
It is already very big, yeah. So this is a huge development for them, and it's like fully automated. They have platform screen doors too, don't they?
Yes, I think so.
It's very modern, fully automated, extreme on the coverage, and it's all supposed to be more express. So like a little bit farther away stations and cover just a lot of areas and connect a lot of areas that haven't been connected to the transit system as much. It is a base project. It's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay. Any other things that we want to say about this report? I'm seeing that the next section is O-Train 2, and we're probably coming up on time.
Yeah. Is there anything else here? It's proven in service. There's also suitable for climate in Ottawa, which we'll come to that later.
Oh, is it? Well, that's another thing, because I'm like, that's why I find it so funny, like especially with Montreal right there. It's like they have a similar, if not slightly more extreme climate. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I guess they do have a true subway, but like, still, I'm like, just get their analyses for weather and just use those.
Having your entire network underground does help with climate resiliency.
Yes. You could just look to Toronto, because Montreal's is totally encased, but Toronto's is not. Yeah. It has a lot of bridges and outside.
Shout out to Davisville Station.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's, and basically after 2009, just to basically end it, there was another election in 2010. Larry O'Brien voted out for a new guy.
A character you all might be familiar with.
A transit friendly guy, even. At this point, he's transit friendly. He's getting elected. It's Jim Watson.
It's your boy,
Jimbo Jimothy Watson.
He's gonna be an interesting character.
Yeah,
he's something else, all right. Yeah, but very good. Yeah, we should probably, I guess, cut it there. But we can tease a little bit what's coming up next. We're getting into proper Confederation.
Yeah, and so before that, yeah, basically what we've seen is like O-Train starts to exist, and it's basically only what's currently line 2, 5 stations, and then it's going to be expanded, and then they're like, just kidding, no, it's not. Actually, a little bit. And then just elections keep getting in the way, and here we are.
Yeah, and then also, like, talking about this LRT project, like, we have been circling around. Like, even though we had a bit at the beginning trying to define what an LRT is and covering a bunch of the different transit types, we're still going, what the heck is this project? And that's, I think, a theme.
Does anyone in the world know?
Yeah.
The old texts speak of what is an LRT. But yeah, so a little bit of foreshadowing, I guess. So we got Jimbo Jimothy Watson.
Jimbo Watson.
Yeah, and we can go from talking about an actually based pilot project to some of the issues maybe start to pop up. Maybe some of the issues even start to pop up during the election. We'll get there.
Who's to say?
Yeah,
Who's to say?
there's a lot more entertainment in history to come. Things really start to kick off at this point.
Yeah. And yeah, so Tales of LRT past done. Now we're on to Tales of LRT present, I guess, for the next one.
That we are, yes.
Yeah.
And I guess with that, we'll just wrap up and say thank you, Declan, for being on this episode
thanks.
and blessing us with your transit knowledge.
And for
It's my pleasure.
reading all these documents that no one else on Earth has ever read.
Seriously, I do not know what the readership numbers are on these documents. It's got to be just like City Hall staff. Really.
Yeah. City Hall staff skimming it.
Yeah, seriously. Even the politicians probably just get like the spark notes from their assistants. Like,
yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, this is very good, and we'll have you on again soon to cover all the next bits. There's a lot more to come. Too much more to come.
Yeah. So, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.